You're watching the Tesla Live with your host, Mark Hodland.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tesla Life number 403 on the 19th of March, 2025. So glad you can join us tonight. And you can see we've got a special presenter wearing the unicorn tonight. But let's start with Casey, Mr. Green from the Mid-Atlantic States. How are you today, sir?
Doing all right. This one's little sister is keeping us on our toes.
Yeah, that's right. It's getting close to go time, isn't it? Hi, Moto. Hi, can you wave, Moto? Can you wave? Wave at the audience? There you go.
Yay.
Good girl. Good girl. Also with us, as per usual, Mr. Patrick Connor joins us from the West Coast. How are you today, sir?
Hello, I'm happy to be back. You guys did a show without me, and it's kind of cool to be a fan once in a while and not just get to watch it. And what are they going to talk about? And not already know the inside scoop.
Yeah, and we.
I lost my ball.
That's right. That's
Yes.
right. And we didn't even slam you, Patrick. So you were watching in the background, and we didn't say anything bad to Patrick about Patrick at all.
That's unusual. Wait, save those for when I'm here for into my face. Yeah. So I have a special guest visiting tomorrow. Tesla's mobile service is coming, and I'm getting a free upgrade of the millimeter wave sensor for in cabin. And they said that hardware update was free and required to get the next spring software update. So I will be getting the new feature that detects children and animals in the car and sends you alerts. So that's pretty cool. They've had cabin overheat protection for a long time. This is now taking that to the next level. And it's awesome to see that they're improving safety like this. And I wish more manufacturers would do the same thing.
How far back did they go with that? I noticed that they did the retrofit for free and made it required, but is it just for Ryzen or is it for all Model Ys or?
I don't know. So mine is a 2023. We got it in the summer of 2023. So they go back at least that far. I don't know.
Yeah, yours came with both Ryzen and hardware 4.
Yes, it is a hardware 4 vehicle. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Special hello to Lee Moon, who was the first in the chat room today. And we got Highlander in there as well. We've got JT24 has joined us. Hello, everyone. If you're in the chat room, send us a hello and where you're watching from. Would appreciate it.
Oh, and I do want to say, while I was out last week, we took the Model Y, and the little vacation town we were in is filled with roundabouts. That's like every intersection, there's a roundabout. and it handled it perfectly. There was one time there was a car that had pulled out in front of us. They were trying to get into the left-hand turn lane, and the rear of their car is halfway into our lane. And I was ready to take over, and it just went around them just like I would have. And it slowed down, but then kept going, and it was great. FSD is really getting good.
It is.
It's not perfect yet, but it's getting so much better.
And it signals in the roundabouts.
Yes.
All of them. Very few humans do. Yeah.
Interesting. Now, the roundabout you were in, Patrick, or experienced, were they double lane or single lane roundabouts?
There were some of both. In fact, one of them was a weird one because in one direction it was double lane, in the other direction it was single lane, and I was confused as far as which lane I needed to be in to go straight. And it handled it perfectly. There was another one that was also really weird. As you entered the roundabout, it had a left turn painted on the ground. But of course, you go right to go around a roundabout. But this left turn arrow looked like you made a hard left right there. And I'm like, why would they have the arrow like that? Because usually they have the arrow that it indicates you go around the roundabout and then turn. This one didn't. It had it was the old paint from before the intersection had changed. And it confused me, but it didn't confuse FSD. So there was at least 2 situations where it did better than I would have, or I might have made the same choices, but just been like, is this right? So it was really cool.
That's my birthday.
Okay, bye. I'm
Good,
sorry, I thought I
good.
was muting her all this time, but I was just muting our other microphone that we weren't even using. Sorry about
No worries. It's cute.
Hi,
Yeah,
FS.
this early language age is so much fun. It's like watching Monsters Inc. Katie.
Exactly. Exactly.
So my FSC was doing some stuff this week as well. It learned to park, which is fun. It had shown indication that it wanted to line us up for auto park before, but I wasn't aware that that's what it was doing. But I learned that that's exactly what it was doing. It knows I prefer to reverse in, and it'll put us right where the auto park program needs it to be. So when you switch to reverse, you just hit start, and it's good to go. Because
Nice.
on our legacies and on Cybertruck, it's not allowed to reverse yet. But it also is just fine with going nose into spaces too, which I don't care for because it makes it more difficult when leaving. But it doesn't care.
That's a you problem.
Yeah. And then it did fairly well with that all week. And then we went to a couple different grocery stores. We ended up at an Aldi, and they have like this large, like either loading zone / fire zone, and it's as deep as a parking space, but there is no parking space there. And the car said, "Yeah, we've arrived."
And that was it.
Cool.
Stop right there.
But also, you may have seen some controversies this week. There was a water main break on the way to. It looked like a water main break. I don't know what it was. There's a lot of freaking water going across the road on the way to my doctor's appointment this week. Well, last week, and the car was very cautious approaching all of this water. Ran up to it. It stopped. Well, not really stopped, but it slowed way the hell down, and then it started fording the water, and then it bat out of hell through a school zone, active school zone. But we've always known this thing doesn't do school zones, and this particular school zone doesn't have the lights. It just has a sign with a times table on it, and that was pretty cool to see that it just like if it was actually the times I've driven mine and one of several of Tesla's units in a hurricane, it is more cautious when there's a situation, like not just if it can't see, but if it's like, that's not normal. So I'd like to see that other controversial test redone with FSD. Same sensors, but it's different programming.
Oh, absolutely. So we have autopilot on our Model 3 and FSD on the Y, and I was driving the 3 yesterday, and there was a construction zone, and it's not getting over, so I take over and I move over where I'm supposed to. It starts yelling at me because I'm departing the lane, but I'm following the cones like I'm supposed to, like the car in front of me is, but it's just clueless because it's not as robust as FSD. And so even if the sensors are the same, which was one of Mark Rober's defenses, that he said, "Oh, I'm sure FSD would behave exactly the same." Oh no, it's the software stack on top of that is what's making all the decisions. The sensors just data feeding that inference engine and that neural net. So you can't make any assumptions that it would be the same. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah. So two other things I noticed about it. There was a situation where somebody apparently had something in the car, and several police people had pulled it over, and it was a 2-lane road, and so the people in front of me went around, and then there was oncoming traffic, so my car pulls over and stops, and then it turns on the signal, and then it just waits, and then after the second or third car, however many, all the cars go by, mine comes out, and then I thought it was going to weave back in between the first cop and then the pulled over car, and then weave back out again. It just stayed in the lane and then signaled back and then went to where it was going. And then in all of its parking and stuff, it's honoring the curb cuts. So like at the end of my driveway or at the doctor's office, it's the curb. It's got the curb cut, but the driveway is so high that I always have it set to auto raise, and so it auto raised, and then with precision, as the axle is coming up on the bump, it slows down and handles it, and then picks back up, and then slows down again, and then. This is with 12. This is with 12 and hardware 3. So I can only imagine what you've got with the advanced stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Patrick RC in the comments agrees with you. He indicates that his Hardware 3 FSD no longer feels like an experiment to him.
Yeah. It's not perfect,
So,
but it's really damn good.
yeah.
Yep.
Well, let's get on to the news of the week. And first thing, we got some bad news, actually, for the first couple stories. But we thought we would report on it. This is interesting. The Vancouver International Auto Show being held in Vancouver, BC. Tesla was to attend. In fact, they had a booth set up. The show, I believe, opens up tomorrow, or today it opened. But unfortunately, the Vancouver people in charge decided that Tesla needs to pull out because they're scared of repercussions that could happen with protesters at the show. So they actually asked Tesla to take down their booth and vacate the show premises to not display for the exhibition, which Tesla agreed to and did take their stuff out of the auditorium and didn't attend. But this is kind of a sad state of affairs that we've been seeing escalate over the past couple of weeks. And it's not just, one or an isolated instance. These problems have started to ramp up significantly. In fact, I'm even seeing them now in Canada, where these things are happening. We had a service center in Las Vegas that was firebombed, and cars caught on fire. These were, of course, this was a service, so some of the cars could have been customer cars, just waiting for service, or were completed, waiting for the customer to come back.
The ones in Vegas were collision centers, so probably all the cars were customer cars. And for the people out there like, oh, insurance will take care of it. Insurance isn't freaking magic. And it comes up with insurance when you hand your car over to be serviced, not us. And Musk wouldn't buy his mom a car, so he's definitely not buying us a replacement car. His question was, why are they doing this? So he's not buying
Yeah, that is an ironic point of this. The vandals think that they're somehow making a statement, but those customers are now either their car is repairable, in which case Tesla's going to be involved, and they're probably going to pay Tesla some of that insurance money to do the repairs, or the car is totaled, and they're probably going to buy a new Tesla to replace it because they're Tesla fans and Tesla owners, and that's the car that they chose. So in either case, Tesla gets more revenue out of this. Is that really what these vandals wanted? I don't think so. So, genius move, guys. Come on.
Yeah, and they're like, oh,
Stop
so you're
dumb.
Forget your financial situation.
Right. Personal finance is personal. Those are choices that I and my family make. Bullying somebody is just so stupid.
It is. If my car re-enters the market as somebody else's Tesla, it goes from being a loss to Tesla to a profit center for Tesla, because they owe me so much stuff from that they just promised with the contract, and especially the charging. And so,
oh right, yes, yeah, a lot of those free supercharging contracts are with the original owner only. And so a second owner is going to pay more for supercharging than you were. Wow. Yeah.
I'm wondering at this point, is it is some of this like there's a whole spectrum. Like there's regular people just protesting, which is fine, and then there's the vandals, and there's the arsonists and the shooters. And I'm wondering if any portion of this is funded by like a dealer group or a competing manufacturer or something. But the way that it's phrased and thought through is like, if you sell the car, Tesla's already got their money, so you lose. If the cars are blown up, whether you own them or somebody else does, like if it's done at the store as a new car, assuming that you liked the car, you didn't view your car as a political statement, it's just the best to do what I want, how I want, etc. Then you're going to get it again. So who is paying for this?
I think it's just outrage.
Actually, we probably all will be over time if this continues. There's these costs are going to roll down to the consumer eventually if this continues in this way. But again, I'm near near Toronto here. We had a instance where at a mall in London, Ontario, there was a Model S that was firebombed by just parking there.
Yeah.
The Model 3 beside it luckily didn't go up as well, but
Bumper though.
the Model S was a complete loss. We've had now superchargers being targeted in British Columbia, where they've been, it's been one particular supercharger, all 8 of them were burnt.
Wow.
We've had obviously this happened in Boston just last week. There are several of these happening on a regular basis. There's a couple of websites even now out there. I'm not going to repeat the website name, but where they're calling for this type of vigilante justice to make a statement.
Yeah.
So
the station near me had at least 2 stalls arsoned with Molotovs, and the fool got himself, and then he ran off into some hotels. And they caught him this week, and Tesla was thanking them, the ATF and local fire department, local police department. And now he gets to spend 20 years in jail for whatever. And now nobody will hear him because the people he's trying to convince, they don't listen to criminals. And he is that now.
One of the websites you mentioned, Mark, or didn't mention by name, but referred to, they have a map with Tesla Supercharger locations, Tesla store, Tesla service center locations, and the worst part, some owners where they have the owner's address, email, phone number, contact information. So they're doxing Tesla owners. And there was one that I saw, so I went and checked to see if I'm on there, of course, doing it in an incognito browser window and all this stuff so they can't trace my IP. And I found out who was hosting it, and I sent a takedown request to that, that's the kind of stuff you should do. I mean, this is obviously illegal. They have Molotov cocktail symbols over owners' homes. Obviously, that's inciting violence when this is happening in this environment, and no CSP or internet service provider wants to be caught in that. So if you report them, you can get them taken down, and we should all do that. Yep.
Yeah, you should. If you come across one of these, definitely send the request in to have it taken down because of the inciting violence. This is it is escalating. PSI for those who are out there, and you're going to an unfamiliar area with your car, just be aware. Have your head on a swivel, because really not sure the rhyme or reason as to when these happen, but these instances have been increasing, and you should be aware when you're going out there, especially in areas that you haven't been before, or if you're visiting an area you're unsure about. So it is something to keep in mind when you're traveling these days.
Yep. Leave Sentry Mode on if you're in one that's new enough for it. If you're in one old enough that doesn't have Sentry Mode, get yourself a $25, $50 dash cam. Find some way to write it off as necessary, and I mean, you can go like just crazy with like a $500 dash cam. Don't do that unless you've got reason to. $50 will do just the trick. You get a dual channel where it's got front and rear, 1080p or more, and you'll be fine. The other thing to look at is don't let these scare tactics, this bullying, this terrorism, really get to you. I mean, it sucks and it's terrible. But if we look at it this way, you do 30 of these a day for a year, that's about 10,000 Teslas. So we're talking a small portion of the deployment, even if these people ramp it up just tremendously. So
I also wouldn't leave a pet in the car right now.
Yeah, no.
Just in case something happens, that would be horrible.
Yeah.
Yep, that's a good thought as well.
He's talking with pet mode, dog mode, cat mode, whatever. Just because these people they'll see a car they think is empty and they'll do stuff. So.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's move on to something a little bit more uplifting. And
Yay.
We've got a new announcement. And Casey actually caught this on Twitter, and and sent it over to our feed. Said we should add it to the collection. He said, and we did right at that moment. We thank you, Casey, for pointing that out.
I tried to add it myself, but my hashtags were broken.
And if you have the ability to, I'm just going to share it. Let me. It's the new Supercharger 3000th Supercharger stall has arrived installed in France, and they did a special overlay, which we've been talking to, and in our Twitter feed, actually, we've called it hashtag Supercharger flags. So if you're on X, you can look it up yourself. You can see all the ones that we've grabbed over time. Let me just share a picture of it here. Here we go.
Cool.
That's pretty.
That's
blue, white, and red.
Yep, that looks pretty cool. So number 3000 is stalled number 2C there in France. So yeah, that is we're keeping an eye on these as time goes along, and we'll add them to the collection. And you can see the hashtag is right here. So if you want to look up all of them, just put in that hashtag into your X feed, and it'll come up with all that we've collected so far.
Yep. Do you guys know, anybody listening, some of the symbols on there, why are those relevant to this Supercharger? It's got a rooster. I don't know, what is that? Sage? I don't know what that I don't know what these symbols mean, and if they obviously have some relevance to the region. So yeah, if you know, drop us a note.
Mathematical theme to it there too. You see that?
Yeah, definitely a rooster, a lamp, a desk lamp. It looks like.
Oh yeah.
And this could this be a wind turbine?
Maybe, but the blades are asymmetrical.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's not symmetrical. Maybe it's looking at it from a top-down view, but
little things from the French flag, or not from the French flag, that like you get in New Orleans and stuff.
The fleur-de-lis.
Yeah.
Maybe. And these kind of look like seashells.
Yeah.
And of course, this is a triangle UFO, which must be often in France.
That's the museum, the Louvre, or whatever, right? I mean, yeah, okay.
That's true. That's true. That could be the Louvre. Yes.
But one of them, like, I didn't recognize that as a lamp until you said it. I'm like, oh, yes, obviously.
So speaking of superchargers, I covered on the Let's Chat on Sunday. Max DeZiger pointed out that they have a new footing installation for the custom installs of the V4 pedestals. So they've got this like polypropylene box, and they fill it with local gravel, and then they just fill it in instead of having to mess with concrete and trenching and waiting for the concrete to cure, which increases heat and CO2. And do it just right, or it's going to not be done well. You got to do it again. And so they say it can be done faster with just one construction worker instead of all that are required with concrete.
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
Yep, improving on the process as time goes along. When have we heard that before?
Iteration.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. Let's go on to the next story. And oh yes, this is kind of interesting. A battery health test has appeared on the latest software update, and that, of course, is 2025.8.3. And this allows you to run your own battery health check in the car when you wish.
Right, without service mode. Without,
yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're deep into Tesla and you were curious about this stuff, in the past, you could go into service mode. There were instructions out there you could find if you really wanted to, with all caveats and warnings, about how you're not supposed to do that yourself. That's only for service technicians. But you could get into this mode, and it would fully charge, nearly fully drain, and fully charge to get this rating, which, you're cycling your battery for it. But if the information matters to you, you can get it. And I checked this morning because I saw this article, and I was very curious about it. One of the reasons I use Teslafy is to get battery degradation information. And they have a pretty cool system where they can get it based on partial charges. And it's not as accurate, but it's good enough. And if you occasionally do a near full charge and a near full drain, then it's pretty accurate as well. And I'm just using that for normal driving. And we had some road trips last week because we were traveling. So I'm very curious what my Teslafy data is going to be when I pull it at the first of the month, like I do every month, and chart it all up. But this is I'm curious if this does the full battery cycling or not, or if it's just the latest estimate based on the data they have, because the BMS is always tracking this.
Yeah, not even an update really. I think it's just the same one that we had, but now you don't have to go service mode to do it. I think it's something.
Okay.
Okay. My question on it though is, does it give us finally the battery test on Legacy? Because the very first car that reported it was a Legacy, but then of course these people almost never show us what they got in the updates. So there was no what's in the update. There was no picture of the screen like, here, I got this new thing. Because it's been a while since we got anything fresh, so most people are out there looking.
Yeah,
Salty Legacy Casey. That's your new nickname on this show.
He's not bitter. You can't tell. He just keeps it even keel. He doesn't.
No tells at all.
Nothing.
Like we got the new navigation interface with the big bold lettering, and we got the like I said, my car's parking itself now. That's new.
Yes.
Derek's got a question from the chat. How often does the panel drain their car batteries, and to what level? 10%, for example. I'll go first. I will typically keep my car at somewhere between 80 and 20%. So if I get down to 20, I'll charge it back up to 80. If I know a big trip's coming up and I'm sitting at maybe 50, I'll charge to 80 as well. That won't stop me, but I would always try to stay above 20 because you never know what situation is going to arise the next morning or the next day when you're not expecting it. And I like to have a little juice in the car. So I typically would not go below 20.
So mine is complicated, but not overly so. I have my charge level set to 80%. It used to be at 90 because that's what the car came with. And then they started moving Model 3s down to 80. And so I said, well, I don't use that percentage of the car. I slid it down as well. I did do 70 for a little while on the Model S, and that messed everything up. Something about the way that our old BMS just keeps track of stuff. So I don't do that anymore. It won't hurt anything. It just annoyed me the way that it just kept losing track of stuff. Then when driving normally, I also tend to keep it above 20, except I didn't become Mr. Supercharger for nothing. So on road trips, I'll let it get all the way down to 0. And assuming it's not winter time, and I have an idea of where I am. So I'll come skating into a Supercharger at 0, just like our friend Kyle Connor. Not quite as confidently as he does, because I don't necessarily have somebody to call and come pick me up everywhere in the country. And so if I'm confident where 0 is, I'll aim for 1 or 3%, and then if I hit 0, oh well. The other side of that, though, is that my Legacy charges fastest at 20%, so I'm wasting charge if I pull in at specifically 0, and I wasn't planning on doing a short hop. And then when it starts to slow down below 90, 80 kilowatts charge rate, I'll unplug it wherever that happens to be, assuming that I can make it to the next station above 0.
Yeah.
And then in the wintertime, 20. So I don't know if the others do this, but on the Legacies, at 20%, your battery changes from no color to yellow. Or if you have colors for some reason, it changes from green to yellow. And I will not park it overnight in the yellow. And if it goes down further to the red, which is at about 10%, I will not park it at all in the red. This is probably partially a Legacy thing. The way that ours keep up with the BMS maintenance and everything is when parked for a few minutes, it'll start to do what it does. And so if I'm in the yellow, I can come back and find it in the red or at 0. I've had that happen a couple times. It's lots of fun. So So if you are already in the red, then that's not a good place to be. I would and still do that when I'm in a non-legacy, like when Tesla loans me a car, or if I borrow somebody else's for some reason. I won't in the yellow. I won't leave it overnight. I'll have already been looking for places, and if it's red, I will not let it sit overnight without at least a trickle charge. Plug it into a 110 outlet at the very least, and that'll be fine.
Right. Yeah. So my daily setting is only 65% because we just don't drive that much. I work from home, and but then this road trip that we just took, I charged it up to 80 overnight. Then that morning I slid it up to 95, let it charge while we were packing and eating breakfast and getting ready. Then it hit 95 and we hit the road. And then when we got back, it was at 8%. So that's the probably the closest to a full cycle that I've ever done driving it. And the nice thing is when we were coming back, it started going into the yellow, and then it's getting low, and it says we were going to arrive home with, I think, 12%. But then as we drive, it was like, no, now you're going to get 11. No, now you're going to get 10. But I wasn't worried about it because there was at least 3 places I could stop to supercharge. If it ever said, oh, you're not going to make it home, like, okay, I'm pulling over at the next one. So that was really nice because when if you know you have that infrastructure, then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what's cool about it. When we got these things in 2012, that was not the case.
Exactly.
And then there were 4, and now they're not they're very well covered, but they're not everywhere. And they were talking about a 30x increase in points, and that's a lot because another thing we talked about on Sunday on the chat was Electrify America had just hit 4,000 plugs. And I was like, okay, well, let's go over to Supercharger.info and see how many plugs Tesla's got. It's gotta be similar, right?
No,
No,
it's not even close.
30,000 just in the U.S. or so, and
yeah, it's a huge difference. Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm writing an article now. It's going to publish this weekend in defense of Tesla owners. All this pressure to sell your Tesla and all that. No, so maybe in one of the Express shows next week we can talk about it when that comes out.
Yeah, excellent idea.
Also, I do like Patrick does. When it comes time to if I want to, if the first leg is gonna be far into the network, or if I just want to minimize that first stop, I'll let it trickle on up to 95% that morning. And do the precondition, and then we'll roll. I don't like to let it just sit high.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. You don't want to leave it setting high or low. So your advice about if it's low, get it onto something, even trickle charge, is good advice. Batteries like to be in the middle third. That's where they're the happiest. That's and especially if you add high or low temperature with high or low state of charge with high temperature, that's a bad combination. So if you're ever going to be in a hot area, make sure you get a nice normal 50, 60, 70, 80% charge, and not too much higher, and certainly not below 20.
Yeah, and if you
80-20 rule,
and certainly if it's cold out, bump that another few percentages up the line, because you are going to burn extra battery juice, worm in the battery, and getting no mileage for it. So certainly be aware that maybe 20% is good for the summer months, but when you get into winter, I'd be banking on 30%. Always keep it in there.
Yeah, if it gets below freezing or close enough to freezing, then in the car temperature drops of the battery, it'll lock out a portion of your battery until it's safe enough to use it. That way, it doesn't damage it permanently, and it doesn't risk a fire.
Yeah.
The other thing to look at with that is if you have to leave it at an extreme, one or the other. Hopefully, that's not a case you have to. It's much more damaging to leave it at 0 than it is to leave it at 100. But you don't want to leave it at 100 because it's just going to take lifespan away from it.
Yeah.
But 0 can damage it.
Well, speaking of lifespan, what a great segue. Casey's going to talk next about some new things we've learned about the CyberCab.
Yes. So the CyberCab, we speculated it's going to have a small battery, and we were right. But through some conversations with Lars and Franz, some folks have determined that it's probably going to be about 55 to 60 kilowatt hours, which is a smaller pack, but it's not really all that small. It's just bigger than we were thinking.
Yeah.
Well, So Sandy said he expected it to be 55 to 60, and Lars and Franz said no, we're shooting for below 50.
Oh, okay. Okay, so they wrote that backwards in the article. So even so, a 60 would have been 208 on the original Model S, which is fine. This car is smaller, lighter, more aerodynamic, more advanced material science and computational fluid dynamics and all the other stuff they've learned on how to build and streamline these things. So even at that 50 or less, it can still go quite far. Before the show, Mark and I were looking at different views of it, and I noticed that from above, and then there's a certain front angle with the doors open where it looks very Aptera-like, except for that extra wheel. And
yeah, and Aptera, of course, has got a fantastic aerodynamic score because of its teardrop shape. And this car is very similar to that, as Casey stated.
Yeah, and their biggest battery is what? Was it 65 or 80 that they ended up doing for their big battery?
You're the one that's ordered one. If any of us are likely to know, it's you.
Came out.
Okay. Yeah, so Franz actually had a lot to say about that. With it being a two-seater, then you could narrow the back.
Yes.
But he was not happy with the rear hips being narrow. And so he spent a lot of time on the design to make the rear of the car look good and still have that teardrop that they wanted for aero efficiency. So that's kind of cool that it's not just oh, let's just make it small and who cares what it looks like. It's let's make it all work together, make it work well and be beautiful. Yeah, that was kind of cool.
That Franz describes these things. He's not a like some folks are like, oh, you can't call them eyes. The headlights and the this and the that and the forward lighting design, blah blah blah. Franz is like, these eyes look happy and those eyes look like front.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear the rear of the car called the hips. I mean,
I don't think I've ever heard that before.
Yeah, I got into design language. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, so to know that he used the anthropomorphism that we use is pretty cool.
Yeah. Hey, Casey, your camera is going. Oh, there we go.
Oh,
all right,
your camera's doing weird stuff.
Yeah, so this was a conversation that Lars and Franz were having, right? With
they were talking about 300
Sandy
miles
Monroe
range.
talking about the CyberCab. Yeah, so they said expecting close to 300 miles real world range on less than 50 kilowatt hours of battery. That's impressive.
But again, when you look at the competition, they're talking about 1,000 miles on the same charge.
True, and we did find out from previous pieces of information is that the body on this car, of course, is not metal. It's a composite that's color matched, and of course, it's probably, we haven't heard an official weight, but it's probably way down on the weight list compared to other vehicles. So that, along with the teardrop shape, is probably allowing for it to get this spectacular range of 300 miles on a range test. So that's and of course minus 2 seats and 2 doors for the back
and 2 side mirrors
Yeah, and you've got less weight for passengers because you only fit 2 in the vehicle. So
and a lot of luggage, but still limited amount of luggage.
Yeah.
And who knew that pedals and steering wheels weighed so much? Take them out and boom, double the range.
Just give you more room to work with.
Obviously joking. Yeah.
Right. But the other thing we're going to be looking at with that is most of its trips will be low-speed trips. So that should also extend it.
Right.
Assuming they tested it at the EPA cycle.
How many times have we been caught in traffic issues and you realize that your range seems to go up because you're not traveling at 65 miles an hour anymore. You're now traveling at 20 and just crawling in traffic.
That is one thing that's funny about EVs. So in a typical gas car, when you see the highway and city highways, mileage is better. And not so in an EV. If you slow down, things just get more efficient and your range goes up.
Yep.
And speaking of efficiency, Lee just posted in the chat that his Model 3, after almost 7,000 miles, he's running at a 194 watt hours per mile. So that's pretty darn good.
Oh, wow. So over 5 miles per kilowatt hour? Am I doing that math right?
That's about right. But then you've got weirdos like me. We've got the Performance Legacy, where mine actually has a double bump in its efficiency curve because of where it switches the motors over. And
that's right.
General physics. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So I'd be curious, anybody else in the chat, what model do you have? How many miles or kilometers do you have on it? And what's your watt hour per mile? Be interested to hear.
I don't think I can compete with Lee. I think he's crushed mine.
Topped it out, yeah.
Well, next we're going to roll on to, oh yes, Patrick's got a story about superchargers. And how's that possible, Casey?
I don't have a story. So Casey's Mr. Supercharger. If anybody's got a supercharger story, it's going to be Casey.
Oh, okay, then I'll do it. Let's see. Which one are we talking about here? Let me pull the email up real quick. We are talking about...
This is about the Ford story.
Oh, the Ford story. So, Ford has delivered 140,000 CCS to NACS adapters, or NACS to CCS. Either way, what their cars need and what we have.
Right.
And it's not quite 140,000. It was like off by like 10, 20,000.
But they probably purchased it already and they're sitting in warehouses, right? Ready to go.
Somebody got two or something. But it was so close that I didn't fault them for the rounding. And then they went off and showed us how the ones they didn't get from Tesla. They had Electron as the supplier for those ones, and they showed us their drop test, their flood test, their water test. Their water test looks exactly like the one that Marquez showed us at Apple with the iPhone water deluge test. And then they dropped it again, and then they ran it over, and they dropped it again, and they froze it. And then their executive was talking about how they tested it, and I was like, did she just say there are people at Klutz's with all this dropping? And then I thought about how many of these are work vehicles. Like you've got the Lightning van, or sorry, not Lightning van, the Transit, the e-Transit, and then you've got the Lightning work truck. So you've got those people who don't give two craps about their work vehicle, and then their regular owners, the consumers, they will probably all drop the thing once or twice in their lifetime, and then apparently everybody else will make up for it at work and drop another 50 times each. And they showed how they test it for cold. They freeze it to -40, and then they drop it, and then they freeze it again, and they make sure it still plugs in and out. And I liked that part because the consumer Electron had a reputation for not letting go of the NACS adapter or letting go of the car. And so to see them actually take the time to make sure that it would release in the cold and that you could get it in and actually get a charge. And my remarks on that one when they were talking about the -40, Fred or C, is that that could be a life or death situation right there, depending on why you need to charge in that kind of weather. So it's good to see that they put that much into it.
And another interesting point that wasn't mentioned in the article, but of course we found out, is that Ford didn't charge for these. If you requested one, it was free of charge, which hats off to Ford to being able to do that. GM didn't do it.
No, they didn't.
And it's something that
BMW, Mercedes,
that I think it really opened up the Ford network to many people to be traveling around the country worry-free because they were able to use the Tesla supercharging network first, and they knew that the charger was available, it's going to work, and when I get there will not be a problem. And that has hold true now for Ford drivers as well as other EV drivers that are on the network today.
Yeah. So the other cool thing with this is that 140,000, those were all the free units. And so now they're going to start to charge. But the price they're charging is really, really attractive. It's just $200 for all that testing. Like that made me feel better about it, because when you see what some of the others are charging and they don't say what they did for testing, it's like, and so the Ford adapter is good for 500 amps and 1,000 volts, which none of their cars take right now. I think they do 400 volts and 400 amps, just like Tesla's. But to know that you can use this again later, if for some reason they make another one that doesn't have native NACS, or if you happen to, you don't need that car anymore, you keep your adapter and you can still use it, like if you have a rental car or borrow friends or something.
Yeah.
A little bit of future proofing is a good idea with something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think we're going to wrap it at this point. We thank everyone for being with us. If you haven't already, please give us a thumbs up on the video. Press that subscribe button. It helps us out immensely. And if you want to follow what happens during the week, you can go over to our X feed, look up at The Tesla Life, and you can see what's happening throughout the week in between shows. But before we go, certainly we're going to allow Casey to let us know some shout-outs.
Yeah, so on Friday, catch us for the Tesla Life Express Edition 1, and it'll be the same time, same place, Tesla Life channel right here on 7 p.m. Eastern. And then on Sunday, catch us over at my show at youtube.com/CaseyGreen or XG Custom. And on X, we're running a side space with it. So, we can have call-ins, like old radio shows, right? Mm-hmm. And I guess they're not that old, but like radio shows of we remember from our youth. And then that's on X, and then on YouTube/Casey. That Casey Green, not doing Casey. That's some girl who gave up on her YouTube channel. And so that's at 1:10 p.m. Eastern, assuming that my daughter's sister hasn't decided to make her grand entrance into the world. I'll let you know on X with a post, and on YouTube with a post if that happens and it changes the schedule. Then on Monday, catch us again here at the Tesla Life Show for the Tesla Life Express Edition 2. We got into some stuff at the beginning of the show, and there's actually more we're going to expand upon. And that will be on one of those two shows. I don't remember which one. And it'll be worth watching.
Very good. Patrick, what do you got?
Do we want to answer Derek's question about would you rather have faster charging or longer range?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So the question was, would you rather have a 5-minute full charge or 500-mile range? And that's interesting. For me, 500 miles range, if you can just get to where you're going and charge in your garage and never have to stop outside, great. That would be my choice. The 5-minute charging is great. And we just talked about how we have a lot of infrastructure now, but it's even better when you don't have to use it, but you still have it as a backup. So that's my choice.
I take the 5-minute charging because I don't the 500-mile battery, never use it. Like, it would never be maximized at all. In a very rare case, I know Casey's making faces because, of course, he's towing 53-foot trailers on his Model X. But in my case, just driving around, you'd never use the battery. It wouldn't be worth the resources. Having a faster charge at currently the Tesla chargers are out there, that would work for me.
Yeah. So for me, it's mixed. While towing, absolutely, I'd want the 500 miles. If I wasn't towing, then it becomes mostly unused by me because I can't go 500 miles without going to the restroom. And now I've got one munchkin going on 2 munchkins. They definitely can't make it 500 miles on a charge. So that would be wasted resources with just the car. But while towing, that would be as low as 250 miles. So I'm torn. And the 5-minute is to what? 5 minutes just to go to the next stop, or 5 minutes back to 80%?
Probably 80%.
Okay, yeah. So 80%, and if I had a 300 or 400 mile range like we do with the new ones, I would prefer the 5 minutes, even with the trailer.
All right.
So as Derek says, You want both. That's what
I
you're
want
saying.
both.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Patrick, on to shout-outs. Sorry.
Okay, yes. So as always, I'm with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org and on Facebook and X. And I blog occasionally at carswithcords.net, where I write about my future free from fossil fuels.
Yes. So Highlander reminds them of something that I was sold on both my cars. So if you bring a lunch, he expands upon it, bring a lunch, bag of popcorn, and your own dinner. On the podcast, no. Usually it's about an hour. We're running short lately, but but it reminds me of something that was said as I bought the cars. So pack a lunch, stay with friends, leave your wallet at home, and that was the sale for the unlimited supercharging on 2012 to 2017, and
now coming back on SNX.
Yes, yeah, for a little while. And same on Foundation Cybertrucks in inventory.
Mm-hmm.
Although there's a stop sale on Cybertruck, I don't look into that. We'll see how it goes. But
Sounds good. Well, thanks everyone for watching. Thumbs up, and we will talk to you again and find out what's happening in the Tesla life.
Stay positive. Test negative.
Thanks, Lee Moon, for the music.
comments real quick before I close it out. Thank you, everybody.
Confetti. Nice.